Welcome everyone! Thanks for coming back to another vlog of X-treme Superhero. Today, we're going to look into organic human characters. Let's begin! I'm finally done with the X-Factor suits, which I know may seem like I was running away from modeling humans, and yes, you may be right, and you'll learn why as I move forward with this. As we all know, humans are difficult. There are a lot of examples of the uncanny valley that we can look into. Which is why, today, I'm focusing mainly on the face, especially turning this very simplistic faceless model into a human. First, I need to hide my rig to reshape my model more comfortably. Then, I'm going to press the K key to use the cut tool and do a very basic cutout for a mouth. I go to the side view and adjust the shape I just cut, so I can have good symmetry and avoid weird misshapen parts. As you've seen through this process, I began with a basic humanoid shape that I rigged and weighed properly, so that I could focus on the basics. Like I said, humans are complex, and doing the entire process per character wasn't really an option for me. So I just made a general working model and decided to refine it from there. That allows me to do very small weight paints and focus 100% on character design. And yeah, I need that because I have a lot of characters already, and I'll be adding more as I progress through the story. Which is why I'll leave you a writing tip. I wrote out the main plot points of my story until the end. Then I deconstructed the first arc and added plot points in between. This allowed me to structure my chapters for the first season, of which I just took the first 5 and deconstructed them with the 3 arc structure. You know, beginning, middle, and end/climax. With that, I was able to make a list of the characters that I would be needing for each chapter, giving me a simple list to work with, streamlining my process more. I also made a list of the scenarios I'd need. This will appear in the next vlog, so be patient. But yeah, that helps me plot out my comic better, and gives me time to model as I keep publishing, though I'm still taking more time to begin publishing than I'd like. I separate the line between the mouth shape and open it slightly, so I can add the inside of the mouth next. Then, I take the 2 faces above the mouth and extrude them with the hope of making a nose. I cut more geometry between the upper lip and the bottom of the nose. I make more loop cuts to hold the mouth, and then select 6 faces on each side of the face to make the eyes. I extrude them inwards, and on wireframe mode, I try and give them an ovular shape so it doesn't give us neighbors. I try to smooth out the eyelids, and add a face to connect them to the nose. This avoids extra geometry on other parts of the face, keeping it constrained to the eyes and nose areas. I then cut around the nose and start shaping it properly. I begin shaping out the nose a little more. Now, I know this face looks weird, but you have to trust me, it's a work in progress that gets worse before it actually looks decent. But yeah, at this point in time, as with all of my designs, I think it looks good. Enough. So I push for the ears, and be prepared, this may scar you for life. Grab some faces on the usual area of the head, and extrude them to the side. Are we making a Teletubby? Why do you make such a monstrosity? You may be asking out loud. Well, ears pop out of the head, right? So I need extra geometry that pops out from the head. But not to worry, we have sculpt mode to free us from this nightmare. I just push and pull the mesh to the back, and sculpt out a basic ear shape. Look at that! Not so scary now, right? Since the sculpt tools did such a great job, I continue using it to give a more naturalistic humanoid feeling to the head, while also correcting some overall details I missed. That's a true maxed out workflow. Use the technical modeling and beautify it with some sculpting. I then go to the modifiers tab to the right, and add a subdivision surface modifier. Why? Because it just makes smoothing surfaces easier, and I don't want to max out my computer's polygon count. This also helps my face look more like a face. Next step is to add the mouth sac. Yeah, I know what I said, and you know the truth. We have a tongue and our upper and lower teeth inside our mouth. The mouth connects to the digestive system, and it's also our communication tool, so the shortcut is a mouth sac. This holds the tongue and teeth, and makes it look like an actual person when the model talks. But enough drama for now. Let's just add some more geometry to the lips, so their movement is more natural. Shape it out a little, and move to the eyes. There are many different approaches to the eyes. Believe me when I tell you that as you research about different eye modeling techniques, you'll be blown out of your mind with the complexity and the creativity of each method. The traditional way is to obviously try and emulate a real eye, but realism is not my style nor my goal, which is why I take the anime eye approach. This technique is also used for many 3D VTubers as far as I've seen. It consists of hollowing out the eyes and adding a floating oval in the middle. This emulates pretty neatly the eyes, gives good movement options without any clipping of the eyeball outside of the face, and makes blink animations easier for the same clipping issue having an eyeball causes. I feel confident enough on the model and decide to go for an overall revision of my mesh in case my model has weird bumps, making me fix the hands and knuckles and a little bit of the back. I then select the hands and face to duplicate them and join them on the female model so I don't have to repeat this process again. Work smarter, not harder. I do some adjustments and move on to the eyelashes and eyebrows. Yeah, that's exactly what was missing, in case you were wondering why it didn't quite look right. For this part, I extrude from the eyelid areas and from a little above that and adjust them to a very particular taste. Are you ready for more nightmare fuel? Because I'm going to model the teeth. And all I need is circle, which I then turn into bagel, which I then cut in half, and then adjust to get the gums over the teeth. And the real nightmare fuel, the actual individual teeth. Yes, individual. I make cuts for the 16 teeth each row must have, and separate them. Then I begin to model them individually. I know it looks discomforting and kinda useless, but I mean, I want that little detail of realism. I like how it's handled in Arcane. And yes, I do know I'm not doing an Arcane, but we'll take inspiration from where we can. Once I'm done with the teeth, I move into the tongue. It's pretty simple. Get a cylinder and make it bend to the back of the mouth. Then sink it in the middle to give it a naturalistic shape. Now, we're getting closer to the end. With the process we have so far, we can begin modeling the next characters. But that can wait, because I'm going to attempt and make the hair for Marcus. I want him to have a different, more chaotic haircut that embraces a little more of his weird misshapen curls, which is why I add a Bezier curve. Since it's a curve, I can easily to add the curls. However, I'm going to need to add more of these curves in order to fill the head, which begins my very own personal nightmare, of which you now get to be part of. And I know what you may be asking yourself, a nightmare? This process looks very chill and comfortable, which is true. Exactly the reason why I did it. But in order for this hair to move with the model, it needs to be geometry, not just the representation of a function. And turning this into geometry reveals this overblown polygon-filled model, which I have the exciting privilege of cleaning thoroughly. One good idea I had was to one by one try and join each individual mesh of the hair into a model with no clipping, but it didn't work. I tried many different things to maybe make it work, and it didn't. So I had to go back and try again by hand, which obviously presented more trouble. First, I had to close all of the strands at the tips, so there would be no texture issues on the final product. Then, I tried joining the strands by their origin, and got so confused I almost had a stroke. Then, I decided to go one by one to delete each part of each strand that clipped with another, and join them vertex by vertex. Obviously, this took a long time, like 3 hours. But it was worth it, until the middle of the process, in which I had realized that deleting the extra edges and polygons with Blender's options allowed my meshes to get messed up. So yeah, it was time to start again. This time, I had to delete extra geometry by hand, and also the clipping mesh and join it all together, spending a total of 6 hours just in the hair. So stay tuned to see the technique I rediscovered for the next models. And that was today's video. As always, thank you so very much for watching until the end. Let me know what you think down below. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button for the next updates on this project and the Catastrophe videos. I promise there are more projects coming, alongside my comics, obviously, so stay tuned. Check out the X-treme Superhero for free on Webtoons, maybe check my Instagram or TikTok if you have one, and I'll see you around, pals!